Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. Today I have a very special podcast. Before I begin any further, I want to say with Abbotsford residents, thanks to the Mission RCMP, the tremendous men and women that helped me and my residents when Henry Brown knocked houses in a scam and then threatened, then proceeded to get in his car and end my life. His elite establishment and his power covered up criminal ring here in Abbotsford, but through political players. Today I want to quote you some words, and I hope I can do them justice before I begin my podcast. In the words of American legend and hero Hulk Hogan, I want to tell you this. Well, brother, let me tell you what's happening here in Abbotsford in our political ring. On that note, let me begin. Corporate interest Mike D. Jong is on Ron Funk's property. He got his ass handed to him trying to cross from the former Liberals here when Kevin Falcon saw his stuff and went over to the federal Conservatives from the Liberals to try to get the nomination seat. Everybody knew in Abbotsford a Liberal would never have a chance doing that. But the controversy and the scams that were behind Mike de Jong and the establishment wasn't Mike de Jong's office as an MLA he was representing his constituents. So I'm going to take you back. There's three candidates running in Abbotsford. Ed Fast quit his position. There's this young man, Suk Mangill, that's getting no help. He's getting pushed away so Mike can win. And I'm going to line this out for you. Remember Pamela Alexis, the NDP lady that ran in Mission to try to get her seat back and the BC Conservatives gathered to win? Josh Reynolds, hear this name, Josh Reynolds, who's a good friend of Eric Nivels, who sits on the Abbotsford Chamber of Commerce, elected, I believe he's on the board or is the president and stuff, made the fussle that the Mission Chamber of Commerce was proceeding to give Pamela Alexis the answers, and the Chamber of Commerce lady took a leave to help Pam on her ride, on her campaign. Pam's made it clear to me, called this out. Why? Alex Mitchell ran for city council. Alex Mitchell was Henry Brown's economic advisor at the city. Alex Mitchell then became the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce with Greg Toes. Greg Toes was the one that blocked me at the debate, the night of the debate, offered me a bribe to pay my campaign and everything else to load Ross. I knew this was not allowed to be done thanks to Bill Vandersam candidates. Alex Mitchell is supposed to hold the debate for the candidates against Suk Mangill. I believe Brad Viss might be there, Mike de Jong, and the PPC parties. Alex Mitchell was the one at Mike de Jong's rally when Mike de Jong said, there's the Chamber of Commerce, Alex Mitchell, she's with me. Therefore, she will help Mike in the debate. Alex Mitchell, there is a conflict of interest, so is Greg Toes. That debate cannot carry on. It would be more proceeded that I ask the questions, making it fair for the Liberals, making it fair for the PPC, and making it fair for Suk Mangill and everybody else. Because I will ask this question. Why, when Mike de Jong was a sitting MLA, did he look away from the houses that were damaged above Lou's Bar and Grill with that development, that he lobbied money from his government to get that job moved from the bus from Riverside down there? And Ed Fast lobbied from Stephen Harper. Why did Mike de Jong look away from seniors and families' homes when it's his elective duty? Because he was tied to Henry Brown. That would be the first question I ask him at the chamber. Then I would ask him, with all his rallies around Funk of Diverse, do you have any ties to Diverse, any companies or any companies with Diverse or anything? Because you got your sign here, corporate interest. Because Diverse's site was wrong when it went through the zoning. Abbotsford residents didn't get to speak. It was the establishment, the same as Cooper's Farm. These would be the questions, making it fair for the Liberals and everybody. And why the chambers and selected groups? We know that Suk Mangill is struggling. So let me tell you this. On the bottom of Brad Viss's signs, Pam says, is Brad Viss. If you go look at his financial agent, it doesn't say the agent. The agent is supposed to be posted so you can't have organized criminal money or corporate interest supplying it. Brad Viss has been around long enough that he knows at the federal level, and his old dog Ed would have trained him to put that down like Mike DeYoung's got Eric Nivel and put it on there. Maybe Nivel's doing Brad Viss's agent too behind the scenes, but we need that. Now I'll take you a little further. Mike DeYoung's neighbors had breakfast with me this morning. Whatever Mike DeYoung says goes at his neighbors. They made it clear. I asked his neighbors, why are you putting Brad Viss's sign on your property when you never done this before? Remember when Pam ran, Mike was Pam's friend in the NDP, Pam's signs were all there. Here's a fiscal conservative. And when Juddy ran, why are they there like this? He said, Mike DeYoung asked us to support Brad Viss. So let me get this straight. Mike's supporting Brad. Brad goes to Nivel with Ed to get Nivel to support Mike DeYoung as his authorized agent. That's making sense. That's making clear sense, right, Mike DeYoung? Mike DeYoung would have his neighbors not put a sign up to abstain from it. So one's helping the other one behind the back doors. But also I want to announce this. Eric Nivel was the man that came through all our houses when Gurpreet Rai and government people came through and sat there, ate our food, and was heartbroken on the damage that was caused by Henry Braun. He outraged his opinion what Henry did, and the responsibility of Henry knowing that he had an elective duty as mayor, and Henry stood to gain in the chair. But Eric Nivel knew this. The same as Simon Gibson said, that is Mike's riding. That is Mike's responsibility. And now Nivel puts his authorization agency on the sign. Today, ladies and gentlemen, later on today, I'm meeting with the PPC party. They called me because I want the candidates to have a fair chance. We know that Sukhman Gill, being a South Asian, over on Farmer Roadside is where Dave Sidhu's dad lives, Andy Sidhu. If you drive by his house, Dave Sidhu's telling all his friends and all his South Asians not to help Sukhman Gill. He told Sukhman he would be with him, but not to help him. Why? Let me explain it to you, Sukhman Gill, if you watch this podcast. Mike DeYoung endorsed Dave Sidhu at the height of the coronavirus when nobody gathered. Mike DeYoung risked his reputation and everything. They endorsed Dave Sidhu to get him on his city council and then help him to get in as a BC United. Dave Sidhu owes Mike DeYoung to hurt Sukhman Gill. The federal Conservatives got a big problem. When me and PIERRE Poilievre shook hands, we shook hands under agreement of what Ed Fast was doing. How is this mess going? Ain't it a coincidence that old master dog Ed Fast, who was so much about not letting the Liberals in, is weakening Sukhman Gill, this young guy? Why are I so adamant about this? Why do I stand for Sukhman Gill? My hands ain't in anybody's pocket. PIERRE Poilievre knows that. The Liberals know that. The Conservatives know that. When I ran for mayor to help my homeowners and residents that our houses were negligent by a contractor, it's the mayor's responsibility, but Henry was involved in the scam, the big money. Henry used the cops to threaten me. The Abbotsford Private Shit Squad, Mike Sir, Keelan Olenoff, we know that. It's all documented. The RCMP were adamant about us holding strong and not using these fists to knock Mike DeYoung's head off of him and Ed Fast and Henry Brown. All of them were in here about that money, the Dyke money and everything. It was Barty Sandhu, who I didn't know, stood up at the sports center when Abbotsford First, which was Ross's team, said I grabbed Sandy on the whipper-whapper. She said he can wreck somebody's life, and she called it out. Changing my outcome of why I would help this young guy when Brad Viss is pissing all over him, when Brad Viss is doing all this shit. So to Brad Viss, here is the question to your filthy Conservative here in Abbotsford. Let me understand this. Alex Mitchell is going to host the debate. Alex Mitchell was at Mike DeYoung's rally, the Chamber of Commerce. Josh Reynolds is Eric Nivel's best friend, and he called out Pam for getting the questions. What is your ties, Brad? Why haven't you spoke up to help your own candidates? Why haven't you spoke up to speak? Because Ed Fast grabbed you by the testicles and you're being choked and you can see it. I'm all about conservatives, and I told you. But I will not stand for this cheating and this scamming, and that is why I told you when I run for mayor, the RCMP are coming in. Corporate interests weren't about corporate interests. They got into threats and owning MPs and MLAs, and Henry Brown was the mastermind behind it all. We knew when that election was called with Dave Sidhu running as city and I was running as mayor. Dave Sidhu had everybody in the Preacher newspaper phoning every person to vote for Ross Siemens, and Gabriel, the electoral officer, wouldn't give me the election list or the by-election. Calls for the BC Conservatives, who Eric Nivel was involved with, to stand clear of it all. Bruce Banman is the party whip for the Conservatives. I made it clear to Josh, to the Conservative leader here in British Columbia, I made it very clear that he was a very good friend of mine and Abbotsford residents. He came into our houses. He looked at our houses. His heart was ripped apart, just the same as Nivel when he sat there eating pizza and stuff. And I made it clear to John Rustad that the Conservatives have to support Conservatives. Your candidate, Bruce Banman, the party whip, Corky Neufeld, and Rianne have to help this poor kid. He's not in my riding. But what Barty Desendu did for me and stood up, he's a South Asian. I owe this from my heart to Barty Desendu to help this kid. I know the cheating and what established and went around this kid was all pushed in there to weaken him for Mike DeYoung. So to Mike DeYoung, I'll ask you again, why did the federal Conservatives not give you the green light? Why hasn't Vicky Hopes called anything out because Henry brought her on board? Henry's best friend was Rick Rakes of the Abbotsford newspaper. But I want to tell you this, Mike DeYoung, you're all lawyers. Ed's a lawyer. Mike was a lawyer and a prosecutor. Mark Warkentine is one who owns Ed's land title and everything else. I pretty much guess that Pierre Poilievre felt what was coming. I won't cover it up for the Conservatives, even if it means they're going to get scandaled and the Liberals will get a stronghold. I did a video yesterday in saying that Pierre Poilievre's got his candidates in such a disarray and a mad thing. For him to beat the Liberals, he's only got one choice now, is to tag up like Donald Trump did with Kennedy to the PPC leader and get a stronghold and then whip the shit out of Brad Viss if he gets back in. But I will not stand for abuse. I will not allow the Abbotsford police be owned by an organization of a mob, telling people to drop videos, ringing their house and threaten them. Because Henry got exposed with Mike and Ed, they can't do it to Suk Bengals. They can't block any candidates. Abbotsford residents are in full watch mode. Mike DeYoung's got his sign here on an illegal site. Mike DeYoung's friend, Alex Mitchell, that went and supported him from the Chamber of Commerce, is going to host a debate. That's the question Alex needs to ask. Why that zoning changed? Why that? But the Chamber of Commerce cannot hold the debate. They got to pull from it. I should be the one that holds the debate because I will make it fair for the Liberals, I will make it fair for the PPCs, and I will make it fair for the Conservatives. Because my principle, even though I'm a Conservative, I will be fair with the questions that circle and surround Abbotsford. That's why I'm running for mayor. What are you going to do as the federal MP for all the farmers here that couldn't get relief for berry pickers? What are you going to do to bypass what Henry was squashing when they needed houses and homes? What are you going to do to compensate the high price of GFL's garbage and our garbage being dumped on the street because nobody wants to take it to the dump? And that's saying we need to hide more bylaw rather than open up competition for this stuff. What are you going to do for this? But the first thing we need to do is send in a whipping to Mike DeYoung. Mike DeYoung's not knocking on doors. Mike DeYoung will use the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Business Association, the Fraser Valley Indo Association, Dave Sidhu, the Caprita newspaper, He'll use all his contacts to try to get in. And then try to go over the 500 million in the dikes. Everything. It is an impossibility when Darren Brown said, I'll show you, it looks like a conspiracy. Henry Brown was the engine of it all. Henry Brown got in his car, came to a protest while I was standing up for our homes and what was right. And that was Mike's responsibility, that bloody coward, that garbage coward. That's his riding. He has to be the MLA. And Henry turned me over in his car, his Alexis car. Then dumped his Alexis car and then fled. Used his money and his connections, and because he sat on the police board, to ask Mike Sir to cover it all. Henry believed he could hold it out from the newspaper and hold it with his two lovely friends, old Mike DeYoung and this. But let me explain this. Mike DeYoung's cheating so bad with Nivel helping him. Look at that sign. See that color? That is the official color of the Conservatives, the federal Conservatives color. Mike's trying to trick the voters. And when you go to the voting poll, it's doing this. Remember what Henry did. Henry used to say, give me your phone. Now you're going to help Ross when you go to the voting poll. Take a picture of your card so I know that you really voted for him and I don't have to believe that you did it and switch the votes. We got to make sure that nobody's walking up to the voting poll with the phones. Henry wasn't even at church today. His car wasn't spotted. I guess he had an emergency meeting with Mike DeYoung. The RCMP mission made it clear when I went to him for help on what was taking place by a rich, elite mob of Abbotsford, controlling a democracy, covering up organized crime, and big corporate interests, like what took place on 3,000 voters, Brad Viss, 3,000 voters up on Cooper's Farm got told to stick it up their butt because Henry had counsel in his house to rig a decision. Ross Siemens had his sign up on Polygon site. So did Dave Lowens, and so did Patty Ross. They're supposed to be a environmentalist person, all to give that company a lift. It was Peter Wall years ago told me when I was working in Wall Center in Yaletown, a developer cannot be caught running the candidate side because the developer's paying his way. Ron Funk, a diverse, told me, his team did, when I went and approached him, that they had it under good grounds. We really need Ross to win. We really need Mike to win, right, Ron Funk? That'll cause the diverse not to have federal investigations from here to Chilliwack to everywhere and on its dirty land sites. This is about a community. This is about families. This is about a private police department that got owned. But one man was the engine of it all, Henry Brown. He convinced that shit kicker head fast, and then they did this. So here's the play out. Brad Viss, the signs down all on Mike. Mike's helping Brad. Brad's best friend, Eric Nivel, helping Mike. You can see this. Josh Reynolds calls out Pam for the stuff at the Chamber of Commerce in Mission. Now Pam calling out Josh Reynolds and Alex Mitchell hosting them Christians. And Pam's like saying that, you know, Alex Mitchell, she's in conflict of interest. She was the one that was at Mike's rally with Simon Gibson. Go, Mikey! Go, Mikey! Go, Mikey! Go, Mikey! This is Simon. Marcus Dalvis was the smartest. He knew I got used as a CPA. I'm done with Mike, and he wouldn't promote him. Eric Nivel, Abbotsford homeowners, let you in their house. You were there with them damage on them homes. You knew as a CPA, but you know as a human being, as a father, that was Mike DeYoung's riding. He was the MLA, and he told Abbotsford residents to stick it up their butt. That was his elective duty, the RCMPC. That's what he took an oath for. The prosecutor and the lawyer knew this, and he covered it. Eric Nivel has to be working triple the amount of time. Mike DeYoung goes down. Eric Nivel's on the bottom of it. But now we have to go after the Chamber of Commerce. And like Hulk Hogan said, well, brother, I'll tell you. Well, Pierre Poilievre, me and you shook hands. I said, you may not like the outcome of what's coming, but it's the best for my community because your MPs and MLAs ain't MPs and MLAs. They're little bitches, and it's corporate interest. That man there never deserves to sit in a public office ever again. He had a sworn elective duty. Him, Henry, and Ed have to go under massive criminal investigations to allow a man to try to kill somebody, allow a block, allow this. Suk Ben-Gil. Brad Viss owes that responsibility to him. Marty Sendude saved me from sex charges and everything. I owe it to her culture and to her people and to this young man to stand on the world stage, even if I may look like an ass, and show what Abbotsford's bed tough. Not scared to get a little dirt on their hands. Mike DeYoung, it's got the signs the same as the Conservatives. Let's make sure Mike DeYoung gets this message. Nobody's above the law. An Abbotsford judge said, no one's above the law, Mr. Pelican. No one can use the law and no one can bend it. But here's his famous words. They're here at the back of my head, the front of my head, and they pound every day. No one thinks of the end, Mike DeYoung. They only think of the beginning of what they can grab. Think of the end. Your ass is going to get handed to you, and that's the bottom line. That's what Paul Harvey would say. Now you know the rest of the story. I'm live here. Abbotsford, British Columbia. Alex Mitchell, Greg Toes, the Chamber of Commerce, Josh Reynolds, Eric Nivel, Brad Viss. Have a real look of how you play politics. The BC Conservatives learned it. John Rustad, when he came in, was told by Abbotsford residents, don't cheat, don't go behind the organizations, the chambers and endorsements. Knock on the door. You don't got to raise your hand to knock on the door. You can knock like this and work the grounds and get in. I'm live. Abbotsford, British Columbia. Rob Funk of the Verse. Here, has to go under criminal investigations. Right, Mike? And you're hoping to get in so you can scathe them off. Live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.